Hope. I am the market lead for South Africa as a part of our team, Farmable. Today, we're going to focus the conversation on safe spraying, which is the name of a recent module we have launched. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen. We'll go through a few slides. So safe spraying is something that we've actually been looking at from our own farm's perspective here at Farmable. Some of you might know that we co-own Norway's largest fruit farm. And one of the challenges we have is in communicating those harvest and re-entry intervals during our spraying season with a wider team. So that's something that we really wanted to address with this module. And of course, that comes together with being compliant with Global GAP and all of our audit requirements. So we'll touch a little bit on audit requirements today as we go through the session. Before I jump into the details of safe spraying, let's just take a minute to look at the platform as a whole. We are almost a 4-year-old company now, so many of you have known us for a few years. The Farmable app has been available on the market for 3 seasons now, both in iOS and in Android. Essentially, there is a freemium offering for data management in the app that includes taking field observations, tracking, delegating, and planning jobs, which could be spraying, fertilizing, thinning, pruning, anything of the sort, as well as recording harvest information. Essentially, you use the app in the field to take care of data capture, and then we've paired it with a desktop portal, which we call the Farmable web portal. That's been available for the last year or two. And the web portal is a tool that you can use for your reporting. We actually have quite some big plans to further develop both the app and the web portal. The web portal in particular will gain some additional functionality on analytics later this year. So you can use that not only for reporting, but in the not too distant future, we'll have some nice weather information there. You'll be able to map your phenological milestones so you can start connecting progress throughout the growing season with actual activity in the field. The last 3 icons you see on the right-hand side, the reporting module, teams and timesheets, and safe spraying, are 3 recently launched paid modules that Farmable has. So in the grand scheme of things, we have launched a freemium platform for data capture in horticultural farms. And what we're building on top of that is some paid modules that you have the option to add on to your Farmable platform. Each one of our paid modules always comes with a 30-day free trial, so you can always give it a go without any commitment. And our pricing is always per year, per farm, just to keep it nice and easy for everybody. Moving forward into the future, we will not only have Farmable modules available in the Farmable store, but we will also be looking to offer partner products and services. So that's something to look forward in the future. A great example of that could be a local weather station, could be satellite imagery. Really, there's a lot of opportunity there. We get a lot of requests for shared product lists. So our whole concept here in the long term is to offer a one-stop shop for your farming data, where you can basically reduce the number of apps you need to open every day just to see the most important farm data you want to work with. Okay, a little bit more on the last 3 modules. Our reporting module allows you to export an unlimited number of Excel and PDF reports. That's primarily used for crop treatment documentation. That costs 900 Rand per farm per year in South Africa. Teams and timesheets is a labor productivity module we launched just a few months ago. It's a very simple timesheet application. You can log hours for any type of team member, whether that's a permanent staff or seasonal staff worker, through the app itself. That's 5,000 Rand per farm per year. And we're going to spend most of our time today talking about Safe Spraying. That's our most recent module that we've launched. It costs $3.49 per farm per year. It's really a simple notification system, but we think it's a powerful one. So at the heart of Safe Spraying, we're making chemical hazards easy to understand to the whole farming team. We will also offer guidance on being compliant with product label requirements as you are planning jobs in the Farmable system. So to give just a quick overview of what the basics are in this module, first and foremost, when you're planning jobs in Farmable, we will notify you with pre-harvest intervals, re-entry times, or any general, I would say, product label requirements that are important to understand as you are planning a job. Before you actually start to complete that job, you'll see on the screenshot here on the left, we have checkboxes that we've recently implemented towards the end of the job workflow, where the driver will confirm that they have read product labels and that they have the appropriate PPE on for the job at hand. Those are quite important for global gap compliance. So our ambition here is to make that compliance very easy and fail-safe. We all need reminders as well going into the field. So it serves a friendly reminder there. The last thing that the Safe Spraying module brings to both the app and the web portal is notifications on the map itself. So we'll take a look at those in just a couple minutes, but essentially we have hazard icons now that will be displayed on the field map level, both in the app and on the web portal, that will notify anyone coming onto the farm who's connected to the Farmable account that there is a pre-harvest interval or a re-entry interval that needs to be adhered to. So what motivated us really to build such a module? It's really to keep people safe. It can be difficult making sure that everybody on farm has the necessary information about where they can and cannot be. So that was really our primary motivation on offering this module. It's also helpful to have those reminders as you're planning work, what restrictions to keep in mind from work that has been completed recently, and that personal safety checklist. Of course, safety is always number one when we're out in the field. So I'm going to take a few minutes now and talk about how we actually activate Safe Spraying and how you would use it in your operation. If you haven't been to the Farmable web portal yet, you can do so by going to myfarmable.tech. You log in with your same username and password that you have for the app. If you haven't been into the web portal in a little while, you might not have seen that we now have a Farmable store. That's where you can opt in to activate Safe Spraying. With Safe Spraying activated, one of the first things you're going to want to do is update your product library if you don't have harvest intervals, re-entry intervals, max applications or volumes in your product library. I'll show you in a demo towards the end of the presentation how you do this, but it's quite simple to access your product library from the web portal. You've got about a dozen different parameters for each product, which you can enter. Keeping that relatively up to date is great for global gap compliance anyhow, but that's certainly step one, as those intervals, max applications and max volume requirements become the backbone of the logic for the Safe Spraying notifications. Okay, looking back at the app for a moment, you can use the app to plan all types of jobs, spray jobs being one of the most common job types that Farmable is used for. In the example we have on the screen, the grower is planning application for powdery mildew. And you can see, because the product library would be up to date with some max applications, max volumes, there's notifications populating towards the bottom of the screen. It's quite important to note that we do not function as an authority. It's not our job to prevent you from planning a job. even if it does conflict with some of these restrictions. Our job is really to inform and to visualize that information so that you can easily understand what restrictions are out there and make the decision for yourself. So that's really how we see our position supporting the farm. So you'll always have up-to-date notifications towards the bottom of the screen there for your job planning process. Once you've got your product and your causes documented, you've decided that the requirements are fine, you can basically move through the job planning process. You'll assign equipment, people, choose the day. And the last part of the job planning process is really this job summary that you see on the left-hand side here. This is essentially the screen that a driver would view before they're about to start tracking a job. You can, in order to activate the Start Job Now button, you need to confirm that you have read the product labels for the product you're about to use, as well as confirm that you have the appropriate safety equipment on. That's an important requirement for Global Gap. So we're just helping make that compliance with Global Gap a little bit easier through those checkboxes. Now, the other piece that I mentioned is the field map. So when we've completed let's say a spraying job, and there could be a re-entry interval associated with that job, you will see a hazard icon appear on the field map, both in the app itself, but also in the web portal. We have also started visualizing real-time notifications when there is someone completing work in the field. So here you can see John is spraying, and clearly something has happened recently in this field. By clicking on the field or hovering over top of it, we can get additional information. Is it a harvest interval, or is it a re-entry interval, for example? And when does that interval conclude? What I personally really like about this is when you have visitors to the farm, maybe an advisor who is a part of your Farmable account, but isn't on the farm every day. It's quite useful for people coming in and out of the farm, less frequently, to be able to open the app and get a very quick visual overview of where it's safe for them to be and where they shouldn't be without talking to, a farm manager or someone on staff first. So similarly in the web portal, you can see hazard notifications when there is on the map level, whenever there is a re-entry or harvest interval that needs to be adhered to. We will also, I'll show you in a moment, that staff movements are also visible in the web portal. So a good example here would be if a farm manager could be perhaps in the office doing some reporting through the Farmable web portal. Through the web portal map layer, you can actually see real time where workers are out in the field. And there's actually quite a lot of opportunity that we see using the GPS tracks. For those of you who have drivers that have been tracking jobs with the Farmable app, and we have some interesting plans to post-process tracks and basically start automatically identifying things about the orchards themselves, such as the distance between the rows, and allow you to visualize basically a per row index of the field. And so in the long term, we will move data management not only from the field level in Farmable, but down to a row level. And when we're able to actually identify individual rows, which we can do with a certain amount of GPS tracks. So lots of great things we can do processing GPS information for your farm once you get tracking jobs on the platform. So something interesting to come in the future. So as far as slides go, that's really what I wanted to show you for slides. And in just a moment, I will jump over to the web portal itself, and I can point out some of those features we just discussed. My contact information is both in the chat as well as here on the screen. I also wanted to present Russell's contact information and just introduce you to him. Russell is one of our other team leads here at Farmable. He's actually in Australia right now, so he wasn't able to join us because it's the middle of the night there. But Russell is going to be more actively supporting the South African market coming up. So you might see his name on an email, and you're always welcome to contact him or myself if you want a demo or have questions relating to the platform. Okay, let's take a look at the web portal itself. Okay, so again, if you haven't been to the web portal in a little while, a lot has been changing. The web portal, you can access myfarmable.tech. So the first thing you'll see on the map level, if you have Safe Spraying activated on your farm account, and you've been doing spraying where you might have a re-entry or harvest interval, then you'll see these hazard icons on the relevant orchards. You can simply hover over them and get a bit of additional information as to what that notification is referring to. I'll just show you over in the Farmable store. This is where you would actually activate any of our paid modules with the free trial. So you'll have an activation button here for 30 days. I think it's also quite important to show, I mentioned step 1 is really all about that product library. Let's take a quick peek at the product library. You basically come up to your farm name, and then you have the opportunity to add products here. And this is a part of the tool we get a lot of questions about, because obviously maintaining product libraries can take a little bit of work. I would say for most of the smaller to medium-sized operations we work with, and our own farm including, we have about 20 to 30 products that we use 95% of the time. So at the beginning of each season, we come into the product library through the web portal, and we make sure that everything is up to date. You can click on any one of the products in your library, and this is where you can enter those parameters that I mentioned, which you're going to want to have for global gap compliance, connecting the cause to the product, your active ingredient, those harvest and re-entry intervals, application intervals. And it's also an area where you can include the price of a product. That's leading into a calculation we will be supporting in the coming months, which is profitability per field. And we will be launching a module in the next 2 months called Sales Management, which will help capture the revenue side of the farming operation. And we have built up the platform so that it's quite easy to capture the cost of both product inputs. So if you're tracking jobs with Farmable and you've got relatively up-to-date pricing in your product library, and then we will automatically calculate the price of that product input for the field. And labor is obviously another big cost factor for most operations. So with the Teams and Timesheets module, you can easily capture the cost of the labor as well. So between the product input cost and the labor cost, we're quickly capturing quite a big piece of the cost component per field. And sales management captures the revenue piece, and we'll be visualizing that in a profitability overview per field in the next few months. So that's one other thing to look forward to. And the real reason why we've got this package price listed here as well for each product. So once we have all the information that we need in here, then Safe Spraying is going to be able to provide the necessary notifications in the app and in the web portal. I'll also just point out, if there are some of you on our call today that are maybe attached to a larger operation, multi-site operation, perhaps you're an advisor, if you have an extensive list of products that you would like imported, you can contact me directly. We do have an Excel template that we can discuss getting populated and importing if you have quite an extensive product library you'd like to have in your Farmable account. The last piece just to touch on in the web portal, which brings this all together in terms of global gap compliance, is our spray logs. So all the jobs that are recorded in the Farmable app are documented in our logs database here. So you can see here in my test data that we're documenting spray work that had been done. One of the things that isn't always intuitive up front, but we're actually capturing the weather data for all jobs tracked with the Farmable app. So we use a global weather API to automatically capture that data. Again, global gap requirement there. And you have the opportunity basically to overwrite that weather data if you disagree with it, but we make sure that we capture something for you. So that requirement is filled. Those are the job details. If we wanted to create an auditable report on the jobs that we've done, we simply click the filter here. We would choose our time frame. So we could just choose the last couple months. We save that. Choose relevant job types for crop treatment report. If there were only specific categories we wanted, we could choose those categories. We'll take a look at just completed jobs, and you can select any number of fields that you want to include in the report. So I've included quite a lot, but you could take it field by field or crop category by crop category, whatever's useful for you. And with the export module, our reporting module here, you can create a simple PDF report. It could be used in an audit. You can also download essentially every detail associated with that job log in Excel or CSV. So this is with our reporting module. That's the one that I mentioned is 800 Rand, or it's 899, so really 900 Rand per year per firm in South Africa. But I'll show you an example here of what that PDF report looks like. The PDF itself is quite clean and simple. Okay, there we go. So you get a nice overview of the types of products that were used during the time period you selected. We have a per orchard breakdown and of what was sprayed, when, the cause, the weather, any limitations on harvest period. If you're looking for more details than this level, so perhaps active ingredient, maybe the exact variety of what was treated, then I would suggest you download the Excel or CSV version of these reports, and that will offer all the details captured with each job. Okay. One last perspective we can take a look at here, which is the app. So this is just basically a zoomed in version of the Farmable app. So what you're looking at now is really the mobile platform itself. And so again, here you can see our safe spraying notifications popping up because we've done a couple jobs recently and with some restrictions with them. If we wanted to look in at the details there, we would click on the field, click on the icon, and we can see the exact details of why we have this hazard. We can take just a moment and show what it looks like when you're planning a job. Let's create a job for spraying. choose something we've already done. And you can see once I select a product, it's automatically telling me that it's been used recently. I've already used 2 of my 3 allowed applications, and I'm actually exceeding the total volume per hectare. I can take that into consideration and decide I still want to move forward. I can either edit what I'm planning, or I can decide to move forward anyhow. That's at my discretion. If we were going to complete the job, then we would choose the equipment we'd like. We can always edit the application rate if we need. We would assign this job to one of our drivers. We'd select the day we want to complete the job on. We would double check the job summary screen here. Total volume of water and product going into the tank. You can see a field map of where the intended job is. Double check who's working, what the equipment is, what we're spraying and why. And before we get started, we're prompted to verify that we have checked the product label and we've got the appropriate PPE on. And then we are ready to start our job. So for those of you who haven't been out tracking jobs with Farmable, here we're using the GPS on your mobile phone and to track work in real time. We capture the duration, the speed and the distance of that job, and then we share it in real time with the farm manager. And we always offer the tank mix in the top right-hand corner, including the volume of the last tank, if that is different. So you can see here on the far right-hand side, last tank volume is going to be different from all our other tank volumes because it's a partial tank. And for global gap compliance, you can grab a photo of the batch number or the product label for whatever you're putting in the tank. Okay, I'm going to register this job as completed and come back to our job summary. So on the job summary screen here, I can see all the work that has been done. And if I'm looking for the details, I can simply click on a job record and jump into the details there. Okay, while we're all together, I'll just point out a few more features in the app that you might not have found yet. By clicking on your profile picture in the top right-hand side, you can always go to your farm settings. We've talked a little bit about the product library today, setting that up in the web portal, but I just wanted to show you that under these farm settings is where you can really access all of your different libraries. So the backbone of the infrastructure for Farmable revolves around 3 or 4 libraries. We've got our cause library here, products library. The product library in the app looks quite simple. That's intentional, so that we don't try and cram too much data into a mobile application. That's why we have you come to the desktop web portal to really build out the extensive list of the product library. But your library is here, and you can edit the basics such as the name and the application, the default application rate in the app as well as in the web portal. If you are doing harvesting and you'd like to record harvest with Farmable, you can have different box sizes for your different crop categories or varieties that are applicable for your harvest. And you also have an equipment library here. So those are really the 4 main libraries that you can build up in Farmable. If you'd like to add additional team members to your Farmable account, you can also do that right here under Farmables, under Farm Settings. You simply click Manage Members, and you can invite additional people. The only thing you need to invite somebody is their email address. And there are 3 main roles that we have in Farmable. The highest level of authority is a farm manager. That role can plan jobs, delegate jobs, and approve the work. A person who is given an advisory role is able to recommend jobs, of course, take notes as well. They can also be added to a note taken by a farm manager. So in our notes feature, a farm manager can create a note and they can decide to include an advisor on that note and essentially create a chat with an advisor. It's quite important though to note that an advisor can recommend jobs, they don't approve that work. The farm manager would receive a recommended activity and they would then have the opportunity to edit it and essentially confirm it before then delegating that job to a person and a piece of equipment. And then lastly, we have crew. These are essentially, could be a farm worker, could be a team lead for a group of harvest staff. Most often I would say the crew role is used by drivers out completing spray and fertilizing work. If you have multiple sites or are part of a larger operation, you can also have additional farms through a single Farmable account. You can see I've got several different demo accounts here for different areas. But there is no limit on the number of farms or the number of users that you set up associated with your Farmable account. One of the things we talk about often in Farmable is the fact that all the data we are collecting is field-centric. So that means that we basically have set up the data infrastructure to force the data capture always to come back to a single field. And that helps us drive you towards per field profitability in a simple way. So when we click on any field from the map, we can see a timeline of any notes that have been created recently. If we wanted to add a new note to a field, we would simply click New Note. You imagine that you're out in the field with your mobile. You can pin the exact location, grab a photo for this note, and you can even create a label. If you've ever used Google Labels, the concept here is very similar. You can basically create labels to organize your notes. And maybe you're, for example, planning a group of soil sampling. You can label each note soil sample XYZ and have that well organized. And I mentioned that you can share notes with an advisor. That's this orange button right here in the bottom left-hand corner. And if I didn't activate that button, this note is for myself, the farm manager, and only for my eyes. So I can basically privately create all kinds of notes about things that are on my mind. And when there are things I want to loop an advisor in on, I simply activate that button. When I do that, the advisor receives both an email and a notification in Farmable that they've been tagged on a note. In the field view here, you can also easily get an overview of the jobs that were completed recently on this field. Again, at any point you can click on a job to get the details. For those of you that are replanting, there is a timeline here that we call crop. So you can click this replant button if you're changing over to a different crop category or variety and you'd like to document that. And we also have a harvest overview here. So if I had some harvest records, I don't have this in this field. Let's see, I might have So there we go. In that field, I've got a harvest record. Adding harvest is quite straightforward as well. So if you'd like to go in, for example, and document last season's harvest, you can do that quite easily in the app. Or you can take it on a day-by-day or week-by-week basis if you're entering harvest season now. All you need to do is basically capture the date, the field, and decide if you are harvesting in either, we allow you to capture in either boxes or weight, depending on what the crop category is. With that Teams and Timesheets module activated that I mentioned, you can also select teams that are associated with a particular harvest. I've got to build a couple teams here, so I don't see any team names in my example there. With every harvest record, you can document the location in the photo, which can be quite helpful if you're trying to document bin numbers or QR codes. You can always include them in your harvest record with an image from your mobile phone. Okay, we've talked about the map, we've talked about jobs, notes, tracking harvest and hours is there. Hours is really if you've got that timesheets module activated, then you can log hours for anyone associated with your team. And then you can report on those hours through the Farmable web portal as well. Okay, well, we're now about 45 minutes. So I think if there's no other questions, I'll take the opportunity to say thank you from Lara, Vidi, and myself. There is, a 30-day free trial for all 3 of our paid modules. So you're welcome to log into myfarmable.tech. Thank you everyone for your time today.